GitHub it's a nice platform to share us work and to work together. Tu veux traduire toi? Du coup, GitHub est une plateforme de développement collaboratif.
GitHub is a platform to develop things together.
Ça a été d'abord, dans un premier temps, ça a été développé pour faire du software, mais on peut l'utiliser pour d'autres projets.
In the first place, it was created to develop software, but it can also be used to do some projects.
Et la différence avec certaines autres plateformes, c'est que là, on crée des comptes, mais les comptes sont par personne et pas par projet.
The difference with some other platform is that the user is a person and not a project.
Et ce qui fait que ça permet de créer une communauté de développeurs et après de travailler sur des projets communs.
Which allow to create a community of developers able to work on many different projects together.
Donc, dans un premier temps, pour utiliser GitHub, on a juste besoin de créer des répertoires et mettre nos fichiers dedans.
So the first step is to create a repertory and to put your project inside.
Et après, je vais faire d'abord en fait un tour des fonctionnalités de l'application web et après on parlera de plus comment on utilise les répertoires.
Okay, so first it's going to show what we can do with GitHub and then how we can use it. So first you show everything that is possible.
Yeah. Donc le principe c'est qu'on crée des répertoires, on met nos projets dedans, mais c'est pas juste c'est pas juste du partage de fichiers, ça va plus loin puisque à la base c'est déjà un gestionnaire de versions en fait.
Okay, so it's sharing files, but not only. There is also a tool to
a control version system.
Merci. A control version system.
Et donc simplement on peut donc par exemple on peut voir là à l'intérieur d'un répertoire où il y a différents sous-répertoires et des fichiers. Et on peut pour chaque répertoire créer un fichier readme.md qui nous permet en fait de facilement qui a une syntaxe très proche du wiki et ce qui permet de faire des présentations simples de chaque répertoire et du coup
so for each group of files you can create readme files to explain over user what is in what to do.
Ouais. Okay. Après on peut associer à chaque répertoire des pages wiki.
You can associate with every repertory wiki page.
Yeah. Et aussi, le truc qui est intéressant, c'est d'avoir tout un système de gestion de issue tracker. Là, il n'y en a pas ici, mais je crois que c'est
So it's written in English there.
C'est un système où en fait c'est un système où en fait pour chaque problème ou point qu'on veut améliorer ou régler, on ouvre en fait un billet. Et après chaque personne peut venir comme ça prendre un billet et faire cette tâche.
Okay, so there is for each group of files a page where you can list the issue you got, so that any user can take one of these problems and say I'm working on this one.
Votre exemple, je n'ai pas bien compris ce que vous voulez dire.
Ok, mais je vais vous montrer un répertoire, il y a beaucoup plus de choses à faire. Par exemple, je vais utiliser le répertoire d'EMonCMS puisque c'est déjà une communauté, donc il y a beaucoup de choses dessus.
So he's going to go on EMonCMS group of users to see how it works because there is already many files and it's already a community.
Le principe là, c'est que EMonCMS a fait le premier répertoire et que après on peut voir là en haut à droite dans les forks que 153 personnes ont copié le projet et donc sûrement une bonne partie travaille dessus sur leur propre répertoire et peuvent après proposer en fait des améliorations ou des modifications ou des résolutions de bugs.
Du coup, ça veut dire que
en fait,
EMonCMS a mis son. EMonCMS, c'est quoi en fait?
EMonCMS, c'est j'ai présenté hier le gestionnaire de contenu pour les données, les visualisations. Ok.
Et c'est un utilisateur.
Donc c'est ceux qui ont créé ça. C'est un projet, il a été mis à disposition.
Okay.
Et du coup, par exemple là, il y a 153 personnes qui ont copié le projet et probablement pour travailler dessus.
Okay, so EMonCMS is a group of people that created the data things we've been watching yesterday, and they have created a group of files on the GitHub things, and you can see in Fox that 153 other users have been copying those files to work on it on their personal machine.
J'ai une question. Est-ce qu'il y a un fichier final qui se modifie à chaque fois que quelqu'un fait une modification? Il y a
En fait, du coup, là par exemple, il y a 153 personnes qui ont une copie et potentiellement ils travaillent tous sur leur version, mais ça c'est le répertoire original et donc si ils considèrent qu'ils ont quelque chose à apporter, ils peuvent proposer une modification. Et après, il y a un système de validation, si tu veux, pour éviter les conflits.
De validation. Et qui est-ce qui valide? C'est-à-dire
elle est validée par les personnes originelles du projet. En fait, tu tires et tu proposes tes modifications.
Il y a une personne qui gère le dossier, qui va voir toutes les modifs, qui va dire ouais, ça je prends, ça je prends pas, et du coup ça va faire le dossier final que tout le monde peut télécharger.
C'est pas forcément une seule personne. On peut peut-être traduire en
Okay, so already asking relevant question about how it's working. So EMonCMS is like giving files to the community. Every other person, like of 153, get a copy on his machine and is working on his own version. And then, if they think they are doing something good and relevant, they send their version to EMonCMS, who can validate it or not and update it.
Mais du coup là, on peut voir par exemple ici qu'il y a sur le répertoire d'EMonCMS, du coup ils ont ajouté 40 contributeurs. Donc du coup c'est pas une seule personne qui valide, c'est ce groupe qui peut valider en fait.
So EMonCMS is 40 people.
Sur ce répertoire de développement.
On this
repository, you have 40 contributors.
Okay.
And the contributors can validate.
You mean each one can say it's okay, or they need to be all agreed?
No, I think a contributor. So someone has initially created the code.
Okay.
Then people have taken a copy.
Okay.
They've made changes.
Okay.
They have then said to back to the people who started it, is this okay?
Okay.
And they have said yes, so they have contributed their
so
code
if one of
to
the
code.
contributors say yes.
No, but I think that's just the people who did contribute. Like
yeah, so 40 people have made little changes and contributed back to the code.
But only EMonCMS can validate the contribution.
Okay.
Right.
Ah, okay.
I think that's crucial.
Sounds sensible anyway.
Yes.
If it's not correct, they should do it like that.
I think the contributor is person have the possibility to
Say
validate
okay.
on this repository.
Okay, on this repository, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so a contributor can validate other people's contributions.
How can you become a contributor?
You need to ask.
EMonCMS.
But you have two ways to contribute. You can become a contributor, but it's more for when you work a lot on the project. At the moment, you need to have the all permission to change all if you want. And the second way is just you take all the code, you modify just simple or just ONSIG, and just you propose you propose just a modification.
Okay. So just for us, how it's gonna work? Like we're gonna create a repertory named Real Environment. Each of us will be a contributor able to modify files, and like who is gonna say this is a good version? We validate.
I think we will need to kind of discuss that. Find who. Apparently you can give different levels of access, so some people can be a validator and some people can just contribute code, can propose code changes. So maybe we have a small team a technical team who initially say that's okay, and as the project grows we can increase that.
So on each part of the project we can say, okay, this one is the like moderator kind of.
Yeah.
And say
I think that's a good idea. Yeah. I think we should do that to start with, and maybe as it grows.
Okay. All right.
Et du coup, les autres choses qui sont intéressantes, c'est que comme c'est GitHub, c'est une communauté entière, des personnes peuvent voir votre travail et par exemple juste décider de le suivre ou alors de lui mettre une petite étoile pour dire que ça a l'air d'être un super projet.
Okay, so the other interesting point is that GitHub is a whole community, so any user of GitHub is able to see what you're working on, and they can also give you a star to say this is interesting, and other people will watch or even follow it and be updated if there is modification, I guess. Du coup, ils vont voir quand le projet va évoluer.
Ouais, c'est ça. Ok. Et donc, par exemple, là, on peut voir un peu l'historique des modifications quand on va dans. Je crois que c'est dans. Là, on peut voir. Là, par exemple, on peut voir la gestion des issues avec. Suivant si c'est des bugs, si c'est des propositions d'amélioration. On a différents tags pour les définir. Et du coup, ça crée à chaque fois comme
Du coup, ça a été créé par qui?
Une micro-page. Ça, c'est chaque
contributeur.
C'est pas forcément un contributeur. Toi, tu peux dire, ah, j'ai utilisé votre truc et il y a un problème. Ça peut être n'importe qui a un contributeur. En fait.
So this is the list of issues with the project. So any user of GitHub can say, okay, I use your thing, and I realize that this is a problem. So yeah, it's quite convenient. Non, rien. Je disais que c'était convenient.
Et du coup, en fait, pour chaque issue, ça fait comme un. Je sais pas comment du coup expliquer. Une petit espace de discussion. Et après, on peut choisir de le fermer quand ça a été résolu.
So for any issue, it works a bit like a forum, I guess. Like you can discuss any issues. So basically, you notice a problem, you create an issue, and then it creates a discussion where anybody can discuss and answers. And the man, like whose page it is, can close or open discussion. So anybody can open a discussion and someone can close it. Du Pour compter le...
Quand tu es contributeur, tu peux fermer la discussion une fois que c'est résolu.
Okay, yes.
Et même la personne qui l'a ouverte peut la fermer aussi.
Okay, so once the problem is solved, the one who opens the conversation can close it, or any contributor can close it.
Are we talking now about managing just the software part of this project on here, or the hardware part as well?
Est-ce qu'on va gérer uniquement la partie software là-dessus ou...
Non. On peut aussi bien l'utiliser du coup pour du code que pour de hardware. C'est juste que... oui, en fait on peut l'utiliser pour les deux, il n'y a pas de problème.
You can use it for software, hardware, project, anything. Yes.
Et du coup ça peut permettre de bien séparer. Moi j'imagine qu'on peut utiliser créer plusieurs répertoires pour séparer le projet en parties, en sous-parties quoi. Et du coup agrémenter des pages wiki au fur et à mesure et se servir de l'issue tracker là pour faire comme la to-do list aussi des prochaines choses à faire.
So I think that we can create different files to separate the project and use the issue tracker to do the to-do list and say this is a problem at this state, and this way we can follow how it goes. So for example, for all problem it could be like this is the sensor, the communication, and in this part there is those problem, and yeah, go this way, I think.
Et du coup, pour chaque projet, on a aussi accès à tous les contributeurs et du coup, on peut voir les différentes activités, l'état d'avancement du projet aussi.
So for any project, you can access to the list of contributors and to the state of advancement of the project.
Yeah.
So what is in green? Is it
the number of commits by day? Okay. Commits is when you made a modification.
Okay.
Et on a d'autres aussi. On a ça pulse, je sais plus ce que c'est. Mais après, par exemple, on a le.
Comment on fait pour ajouter ces EMonCMS qui doit, enfin, par exemple, pour EMonCMS, c'est lui qui doit rajouter les personnes, parce que là j'ai essayé de rentrer, enfin de m'inscrire à un groupe, et c'est au groupe de m'inviter. Ou c'est à toi de chercher le groupe.
En fait, tu t'inscris pas dans un groupe.
C'est le groupe qui vient
Non, en fait, souvent tu copies d'abord le répertoire, puis tu travailles dessus, et c'est à force que tu travailles avec eux que tu.
Genre là, comment je fais? Enfin, le truc EMonCMS, j'essaie de chercher.
Tu veux faire quoi?
Bah, chercher le truc EMonCMS pour voir comment je fais.
Ah bah.
So she's trying to join the group EMonCMS.
D'abord, il faut que tu.
And she is meeting problem. So she's asking us.
Should she get a ticket for that problem?
Yeah, definitely. I think he says that she needs to copy first the repertory on her machine and then to work with them. And once she will do a contribution, she will become a contributor.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
No, because
the way I understood it is there's lots of repositories. You kind of download a repository and you make your changes locally, and then only when that has been tested and proven that it's okay, you can then put it back into the main project. Or you can fork the project and you can do your own thing and change it, and other people can use yours and do different things. So you can start with a basic bit of code, and then you can make a change and put it back, and then everyone can use it. Or you can make a change and fork the project, and then from there you can make changes and other people can use yours.
So for example, we could do like a file for schematics of redresser, for example, and then everybody will do his own version and work on it, and you can see, and at some point we decide that we take this one.
Yeah, so you could have lots of branches go out, and then maybe we decide one of those, and that is joined to the main project again, and the other ones just stop.
So each time you do a branch, it's interesting because you save the old version and you're working on something different.
Yeah. The best thing about GitHub is it's very good for version control. So every time you make a change, it saves copies of the previous.
Even if you still on the same branch, you say, okay, now I have to take it on your machine, you change things, you put it back on the GitHub, and then there is two files, the past one and the and how many can you save?
I don't know. I think it saves all the changes you make. So the thing gets bigger and bigger, but
changing the name or just the date? It says like this is the version at this point, and
it looks at the binary of the code you've got, and it says, oh, you've changed that number, you've changed this. So it only saves the data that you've actually changed. So it's a very efficient way of saving data, of saving data about the changes you've made. So say you have a whole book and you change one word, it doesn't save the whole book again, it just saves the fact that you've changed that word.
Okay, so it's going to save two bytes.
Yeah, rather than the whole book. So it's very efficient for saving any changes. And I think it saves all the changes you make.
How does that work with hardware though? Like I understand in software it's like a line of code and it just says line 65 instead of saying this says that.
This is the problem. This is the problem with hardware designs. So it works well with software, with hardware, and with things like PDFs. You can't see a change, so it has to save the whole thing for a PDF that's changed.
But still, it's a minor problem because the PDF isn't really that big a file.
It still works as version control for hardware projects, but it has been mainly designed for software, and it's more efficient for software. But it's good for. So I put my KiCad files on GitHub. The problem is that you need to have KiCad to schematics and PCB design.
Okay.
And the person who then downloads your repository must have KiCad to see the file. And it still works for version control, but
make more space.
It's slightly different than hardware. I can't remember exactly. Not really.
I think it sounds like a pretty good option.
GitHub is Git is a type of version control, and it's used a lot for software. GitHub is a graphical user interface for using Git. So if you like Linux, all of that I think is done on Git. GitHub is a graphical user interface for Git, but it's the only one you need to know. GitHub is great, it works really well, it's very nice to use.
This is the web apps for the community on see all. But now when we work with GitHub, we need to install Git on us computer. On the fork project or repository, and you make your modification, and after you pull your request. You pull the
files here, and then
your computer,
and then you push request. Right.
Request.
So a pull request and a push request.
Oh, request. So someone needs to validate, or is it automatic?
Yeah. No, I make a mistake. You copy the project on your user account.
Okay.
You copy file on your computer, and after you make a modification, you push it on your repository, and after you propose your pull request.
And who say yes or no?
The contributor, but I think
the validators.
Like in project, we can have a different person for. It's like project manager.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the team to organize the work and see and verify the future project. And after we can have a lot of contributors, but the person have the permission to validate that. It's just for no have bug on the principal repository. After you different person can do modification on test and try on their repository, and they can make a lot of stuff. And after just you push, you propose a request when you are sure. Okay, you.
Yeah, I think it's if you explain it different. Just think about work that you need to have done. So this thing is a versioning system. So you say, I want to have the software ready to install the anemometers somewhere. So you make your team, and you know who's going to help you, and you might know who's going to contribute. But once it's your project, so you have the people who know about it. So let's say I know that the Gilles is super good, so he will make sure that every contributors, whatever they do, is the anemometer is doing what I need to do. So it's just a management system where you have a project, and someone might not need to know everything about all the software and GitHub, but he knows who is going to be the one checking that information. So I think it's a discussion of outside of this system. How are we going to decide who says it's good or not?
Can we make an example? Like start a group point environment.
Ouais, je pense que le plus simple c'est ça. Ouais. For test it, the more best way is to create a repository for window environment, and after each person can copy, and we can just make a README file and try to understand how.
Okay, so let's try. Good. So you create.
We can.
Jay, when you were doing the manual, the Tripalium manual, then how did you keep control of what you were changing there?
Passing around a Word document.
Okay.
Send letters.
Do you think this GitHub kind of methodology could work as a form of keeping version control of the Pigget design now that Hugh doesn't want to put more into it?
I don't know if GitHub's really designed for working on manuals like that. I don't think so.
Maybe not the manual, but like the design itself. Because I mean, Noam in Athens was suggesting that Wind Empowerment should kind of take responsibility for evaluating all of the existing or all of the modifications that its members have made and having some kind of approved design. Whether that be, I mean, I guess the way of portraying that design to other people is through the recipe book, and Tripalium are the only ones that have produced their own recipe book so far. But it's possible that other groups will produce that, and it's possible that the Tripalium recipe book could be even better if it incorporated things like the modifications that Noam has done on specific aspects of, I don't know, the furling system or whatever.
We use is a system where there's a small group of us, there are 5 of us or 6 of us, that get together every once in a while, and we take a look at the manual, we go over revision changes and modifications, whereas we look at each point that the people have made, and it's a slower process, but the manual is pretty much done, so there's not many changes that are coming. We're not looking for quick changes, and that system for us, it seems to work fine. And then at an international level, the problem is GitHub I don't think is really adapted for software. For version control for the machine, I'm not sure what would be the...
You have other platform for develop book.
Yeah, hardware development.
True, but it's a book that describes a design, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not just it's not a novel.
Yeah, it's the design that's interesting. But I don't know what sort of things exist on design changes. I have to talk to people from Airbus. But,
well, I mean, Pedro Neves works for not Airbus. Maybe it is Airbus. He works for a company that makes aeroplane doors. So I'm sure they do stuff like that there. Or Pete working for Siemens. I'm sure they do have some kind of methodology. But it just seems like this kind of way of identifying problems and then giving that ticket to someone to solve that problem. Like, for example, with the technology working group, then you've been talking about this towers project for quite a while now. So you've identified a problem. Towers aren't as optimal as you would like them to be.
And there's not as many out there.
And there's not as many out there. So in this scenario of using GitHub for the Pigott design of wind turbine, you would take the ticket for towers, and then you would be responsible for investigating the options, maybe with a group of people, and then once you found the options, then you would propose what's the best one to the person who has version control, and then they would say, well, I don't think it will work with the rest of this because this, but if you change this, then we'll accept it, and then that becomes part of the design in the future.
Yeah, well, even, I mean, like our manual, we have a lot of, the new Tripellic manual, there's a lot of tower design in it that we've written in with the towers that we're doing, the standard towers we're doing. But I don't know, it's more difficult, more complicated to integrate that into a physical building of things, and I don't know what exists on like doing hardware development.
Costas, I reckon, might know, because he's quite involved with open source hardware movement in general.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to talk to Costas and see what's out there. But it's something that we just have to make sure that whatever's put in place is not too heavy.
Yeah.
It stifles people from using it. And
True.
People just don't do anything then.
True. But equally well, I think you have to have some kind of system in place, because managing all of these different possibilities from all over the world. I mean, it's fine when you've got a group of 5 people that can sit down in the same country together and can just kind of, with a bunch of coffee and a few beers over a week, can bash out a new manual. But if you want to try and include other people in that, then you can see it just getting crazy with a bunch of people. Even if you split into teams, then what one team does may then affect how another component works that another team's working on.
Yeah, and also just making sure also that because one wind turbine had a problem, we don't try to change all of the wind turbines because of that. Sometimes it just is a fluke that this one machine had a problem, and you don't want to make a huge change to the design because one person had a bad weld or...
True, and it takes a knowledgeable person with experience of the design to know whether that's a problem that's likely to occur or not.
Yes.
What do you think personally about wind empowerment taking on the role of kind of continuing the development of the Pigott design?
That'd be good. But afterwards, we have to see what used it. We have to have a development team that really looks at that and proposes a solution to that. I think that's the subject for another wind and power meeting.
True.
Getting people together that are really interested into that version control and how the wind turbine can be developed. I think the thing that's missing most from the wind turbine are externals and not necessarily internals. So the wind turbine, I think, is fairly correct. What's missing are regulators, towers, data logging. It's the externals that are missing. It's more important to put energy and time.
They have lots of people, but it's very hard to get people.
I think the wind turbine for me is fairly fleshed out. I think if you want to look at something else, it's looking at putting it on taller towers and how to regulate the energy, which there's not much in the market, and a lot of people that are pretty good on electronics, and so putting that together, maybe we can come up with solutions that be working for the Pigott machine, but also for other small wind turbines.
True.
Yes, I've used
and then afterwards come back and take a look at
their libraries, so Arduino
you have to start with the
libraries,
priorities.
True.
Priorities. Because there's
because
not a lot of us. There are not too many of us that work on this, and there's not too many people with a lot of time. So everybody does time expression, so you have to pick your battles.
I think this is quite good for allowing people to make the most of their time, because it means that you don't have a bunch of people working on the same thing without knowing it and coming up with the same solution. I really like the idea of being able to take out tickets and say, I'm working on this, and then this is my solution, and people that are knowledgeable say whether that works or not, or is likely to work or not.